new episode of Battle Cry with me, Shiv Arur. Over the last few weeks of the India-China standoff in Ladakh, you've seen the fighters roaring, you've seen the attack helicopters, you've seen the tanks, you've seen the big guns. But what about the small guns, the basic rifles, the light machine guns, the pistols and the carbines that our combat troops need on the ground at the smallest level of each and every troop? It's been a large and long and frustrating experience for the army, but finally, there's signs of life. Six months into the Ladakh standoff, you've seen the fighters roaring, the tanks rumbling, the big guns rolling. But there's another huge push. The most basic weapon of every soldier. The army is now in top gear for basic firearms. From assault rifles to battle carbines. From light machine guns to pistols. It's all down to the man on the ground. And he's getting armed rapidly. The Indian Army is one of the world's largest ground forces, so you would think that they'd have their assault rifles requirements sorted by now. Sadly, that couldn't be further from the truth. The Indian Army hasn't been able to really sink its teeth into a credible assault rifle so far, at least one. It's operated a wide variety of assault rifles, but it is only now that it is finally getting to see a large number of rifles that it has tested and could be with it for the long haul. Take a look at the assault rifle journey of the Indian Army and what's happening right now.
The basic minimum when it comes to the army in the field. This is the weapon he depends on. You are probably familiar with the AK-47, perhaps the most recognized assault rifle in the world. Variants of the legendary Kalashnikov rifle have been a mainstay for decades in the Indian Army. The other weapon that has been widespread but problematic use is the infantry's small arms system, or INSAS, recognizable by its signature orange stock and grip sections. But the truth is bitter one. For decades now, the army has not managed to induct a fully satisfactory assault rifle in large numbers. Comfortable that it has chosen a solid, no-nonsense firearm for its frontline troops. But if the INSAS and AK-47s are to bow out, what replaces them? The weapon that will be adopted in the largest numbers is this one, called AK-203, which is in fact a derivative of the old AK-47 itself. Much more modern and fine-tuned for updated combat. Nearly 7 lakh of these are to be built in UP's Amethi district as part of a joint venture between Russia's Kalashnikov and India's Ordnance Factory Board.
Now, what the Indian Army wants is for this particular weapon, a pretty worthy successor of the old AK-47 to become a standard assault rifle infantry weapon for the infantry units of the Indian Army. One of the special things about this weapon, we're told, is that it has a special capability barrel. It has retrospective compatibility with many of the systems, including the magazines and ammunition of the old AK-47s. Remember, India's Rashtriya Rifles units and infantry regiments are one of the largest users in the world of the Kalashnikov series of rifles.
The other rifle already ordered recently is the American-built SIG 716. with 72,000 of these already ordered and in fact deployed with frontline troops in Ladakh. A deal for 72,000 more is to be signed very shortly. The truth is, for all of India's quests for self-reliance and Atmanirbharta, the two new assault rifles that will be inducted are both foreign. One American and the other Russian. But does that mean India cannot produce credible assault rifles? The jury remains out on that one.
Joining me now is Executive Editor, India Today magazine, Sandeep Unithan, a defense journalist who perhaps knows firearms better than anyone else in the country. Sandeep, welcome to Battle Cry. The question that's on everyone's mind right now when it comes to firearms in the army, Sandeep, is that the army has not been able to find its footing and find a weapon that it is happy with, that it can see for the long term. You know, finally that appears to be changing. There are large numbers of American rifles coming. A deal is, about to be signed with the Russians for the AK-203. Will this solve the assault rifle troubles that the army has had so far, Sandeep?
Shiv, the short answer to that is yes. Now, this is only the third time since independence that the Indian Army is changing its entire small arms kit. Now, they have looked at, they're looking at three options, basically. The first one, as you mentioned, is the AK-203 for equipping the large number of soldiers. Over 6 lakh of them will be manufactured indigenously. The second is the SIG 716, which is over 100,000 rifles for frontline troops, a higher caliber, a bigger caliber weapon. And the third is the 5.56 into 45, for which Karakal has been shortlisted, is one of the contenders for that. We still don't know if the contract has not been signed yet. So these are the three calibers that the Indian Army is looking at. It's split its requirements into these three weapons. And in the short term, at least in the next 10 years, I believe the Indian Army has taken care of its small arms dilemmas. Whether it is for counterinsurgency or for a full-scale shooting war, they seem to have all their requirements met. Shiv?
Would you believe it if I told you that the carbines that the Indian Army operates, like the one you see here on this graphic, is of World War II vintage? I'm not even kidding. The Indian Army's quest for carbines, which are basically smaller assault rifles with a shorter barrel, optimized for high mobility, close quarter troops, has been one of the most meandering and fruitless exercises. And finally, the Indian Army has been able to select a carbine and has a huge requirement for many more. But will it be met very soon?
Built for the rough and tumble of close combat. Fine-tuned for the torture test. Smaller and lighter than assault rifles. With a range calibrated for deadly close-quarter warfare. Welcome to the world of carbines. We've shown how the Indian Army is faring on assault rifles. But how exactly is the Indian Army doing for these smaller, specialized assault weapons? Would you believe it if we told you that the carbines currently in service with the Indian Army is of a World War II design? The British Sterling 9mm imported decades ago and since then license built by the Ordnance Factory Board. This is more a paramilitary and police weapon in the true sense. But the army has no choice but to continue using this totally outdated weapon. Since 2008, the army has actively tried to replace these aging firearms, but with no success. It has evaluated and considered a range of weapons, including the Israeli Galil Ace, the Italian Beretta ARX 160, the Colt M4, the Thales F90. For a variety of reasons, none of these were chosen. Then in 2018, under a fast-track requirement for nearly 1 lakh carbines, the Indian Army selected the CAR 816. A carbine built by UAE state-owned company Caracal. The weapon was put through a competitive process and chosen to meet an immediate requirement. It's been 2 years now, but no deal has been signed with the UAE company, forcing it to now pledge a fully Make in India offer, where all 93,000 carbines will be manufactured in India in partnership with an Indian company. The Indian government is yet to take a call on this fresh offer. But the carbine requirement is actually much larger than the 93,000 weapons the army has been looking at for a quick supply. The army actually needs nearly 500,000 of these in total, with the remaining 400,000 weapons to be chosen in a separate contest. The bottom line is simple. Since the Indian Army began searching for a standard new carbine for its infantry troops in 2008, it has not inducted a single one. And until that happens, the carbine void remains a telling reminder of every troop ignored.
And Sandeep, speaking specifically of the carbine, the battle carbine requirement, that's another procurement process that has meandered for years without any real end. The Indian Army is still saddled with very vintage weapons which you have tried out for yourself firsthand. Now, like you said, the Caracal, the UAE system has been shortlisted as a winner, but there's been no decision on that front yet. There is a larger requirement for at least 500,000 such carbines. How do you think it's going to play out?
Shiv, that's a very interesting point that you made. The fact is that we still haven't decided what to do with our legacy weapons in the sense that whether do we replace them one-on-one or do we actually look for one weapon that can replace maybe two. So that's the reason that the army has had to split these requirements into 3 separate categories. Now, bear in mind that there is no army in the world that has the diversity of caliber that the Indian Army is looking at. And that's one major problem that the army could face in terms of logistics. When you have multiple caliber weapons, you have different bullets of different sizes. One infantry unit could have 5 and 6 types of calibers. That is one area of concern. But having said that, the carbine, the 5.56 into 45, for which Caracal has been shortlisted, is a very valid requirement. I mean, you do need a weapon other than a full-scale battle rifle for special forces, the Ghatak companies of the Ghatak platoons of infantry units, special forces, troops that are in the rear, commanders, and all that. So there is a requirement for this kind of a weapon. The only dilemma before the Indian Army right now is, given the fund squeeze, can they afford a third rifle caliber? And is this something that we should be looking at procuring locally? Atmanirbhar Bharat. I mean, can we get Indian industries to make this instead of importing this completely off the shelf, as was the requirement earlier for almost 90,000 weapons from Caracal? So that is what talks are on currently, and hopefully we should see a resolution to this before the financial year ends. Shiv.
Sandeep, thank you so much for your inputs on Battle Cry. You're probably wondering, all these assault rifles, carbines, light machine guns, they're all coming from abroad. Some of them are going to be made in India, but most of them are of foreign origin. Does India not have an indigenous firearms industry? Apart from the state-owned Ordnance Factory Board, what about the private sector? Well, here's a look at some of the weapons that already exist and are ready for testing.
Things are in top gear to give the army's infantry troops basic assault weapons. The 6716 is fully imported. The Tavor 21 is built in Israel. The AK-203 will be built in India but is of Russian origin. The Kar 816 could be built in India, but again isn't an Indian product. So what does India really do in terms of firearms? The most extensively used Indian designed and built firearm is the INSAS. But multiple problems with the assault rifle have compelled the quest for modern weapons, which takes things back to square one as far as Atmanirbharta is concerned. Other indigenously designed weapons have found favor with the paramilitary and police, but now with the army, including the joint venture protective carbine, the Amog carbine.
Amog carbine. This is the carbine that the Ordnance Factory Board produced to fire the 5.56 into 30 round.
With these weapons all rejected by the Indian Army, the large-scale private sector has stepped in with its own offerings, all of which are available to the Indian Armed Forces. The Kalyani Group has tied up with Thales to build the FH-90 series of assault rifles in India. Punch Lloyd has a joint venture with Israeli Weapons Industries to build the Tavor 7 and X-95 weapons. Smaller private sector companies like the Bengaluru-based SSS Defence have designed their very own indigenous assault weapons, including sniper rifles and carbines, and has pledged to provide the Indian Army with the first fully Atmanirbhar firearms family. The quest for reliable standard firearms has been a frustrating experience for nobody more than troops on the ground. In the current quest for Atmanirbhar Bharat, will firearms find a firm place that has been elusive for so long? Bureau Report, India Today.
It was great to have you on the show. Thanks for watching. And as we always say here on Battle Cry, India's true strength will only be realized when no human needs to be sent into battle and no weapon ever fired. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.